Before we begin our program, I'd like to ask you all to please rise for our national anthem and for our tikva. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets decked there, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Please take your seats. Once again, on behalf of American Friends of Likud and its president, Jerry Platt, and all of the AFL board members, Ken and Nira Abramowitz, Julio Messer, Sarah Beiser, Daniela Bar-Ilan, Sharon Tsur, and Rabbi Eli Abadi, I want to welcome you all to the American Friends of Likud annual gala. We are very fortunate and grateful to be joined tonight by our honorees, Senator Robert Menendez, please don't leave yet, Senator. You have a speaking part. And of course, Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's office, our friend Ofer Okunis, as well as a number of special friends and dignitaries, Ambassador Serge Verdugo, Ambassador Luis Felipe de Seixas Correa, the Consul General to Brazil, Minister Marcos Okunis, former Minister of Culture to Argentina, and of course our dear friend Malcolm Hoenlein, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major Jewish Organizations. Thank you all for joining us and enhancing our event this evening. Before we get to the presentation of the awards, I would like to introduce a short video message from a very, very close dear friend of AFL, Israel's Defense Minister, Moshe Boogie Ya'alon.
Good evening, my dear friends. I am a member of the Likud party and have been privileged throughout my life to have served Israel in the IDF, attaining the rank of Lieutenant General as Ramatkal, and in the last number of years in the political arena as a minister in the Israeli government. Today, as Israel's Minister of Defense, I think I am uniquely qualified to tell you why the American Friends of Likud is so important to us in Israel and why I support it so enthusiastically. AFL is unique because it enables direct access and communication between strong American supporters of Israel and the ministers, Knesset members. It is vitally important that we who are in positions of responsibility in Israel know what our American friends are thinking. You provide us with a perspective from the United States that cannot get in Israel. We appreciate when you tell us what you see, hear, and think, and believe me, you never hold back. Personally, I find it valuable to sit in private meetings with a small group of American Friends of Likud. We have met in Israel when you have come to the Knesset during your missions, and we have met when I have traveled to the United States. These are opportunities to spend time discussing the issues candidly and off the record. I appreciate your questions, and I always have some of my own. I value these small, private meetings and open exchanges with friends. There is another more personal reason I appreciate the American Friends of Likud. It is giving me some close personal friends from among the AFL leadership, including Ken and Nira Abramovich, Gary Platt, Julio Messer, and Steve Goldberg, just to name a few. We've gotten to know each other well, and I am thankful for their friendship. The American Friends of Likud is also important to the next generation of leaders, both in America and in the Likud. I remember speaking at an AFL event and being amazed at how many young people were in attendance. Also, many of our younger Knesset members are coming into their own, and they benefit greatly from the dialogue with our AFL friends. It is a very good thing that the American Friends of Likud is helping to shape the next generation of Zionist leaders. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I urge you to join the American Friends of Likud, and I look forward to meeting you personally in the near future.
I would now like to call upon AFL President's Club member Bobby Goldstein for our first award presentation of the evening.
Okay, first the glasses, very important. Good evening. When I started to read the bio of Deputy Minister Ofer Okunis, I found myself continually looking back to make sure I was reading his birth date correctly, or thinking maybe it was a typo, or maybe my eyesight was failing. After meeting the minister this evening, I realized my eyesight was just fine, ignore the glasses, and there was no typo. Continuing to read his bio, one cannot help but wonder how someone so young could accomplish so much. I believe as we follow his future, there are many more achievements to come. Minister Okunis has been a member of the Likud since 1992. He served as the Speaker for the Likud Party between 1999 and 2001. The Menachem Begin Award was presented to the minister in 2003 as a culmination of his thesis, Morals and Realism in Israeli Politics. In addition, the minister served as media advisor for the Minister of Finance and for the chairman of the Likud Party from 2004 to 2009. He served as chairman of the Economics Committee of the Knesset from 2009 through 2010, and deputy speaker of the Knesset from 2010 to 2012, and deputy minister since. He is married and the father of two and resides in Tel Aviv. As we concluded this week the third book of the Torah, Leviticus, yesterday, we repeated the words Hazak, Hazak, strength to strength, may you and the Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, continue to lead us in our growth and strength. There is so much more I could tell you this evening about our honored guest. However, I know that you are most anxious to hear from the minister himself. So not only is it my honor to introduce Minister Ofer Okunis, Deputy Minister of the Office of Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, I'd like to present him with the Excellence in Government Award. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
I like it. You like it? Yeah. Thank you. Good evening to all of you, Senator Menendez, distinguished guests, my friends that I met some of you in Jerusalem, members of American Friends of Likud. Thank you very much for this special honor. I came here to be with you tonight from the Knesset in Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the state of Israel and of the Jewish people for 3,000 years. And this is going to be in my office. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. I'm glad to be here in this event where we share the same point of view and ideology of the Likud party, who leads Israel almost, Senator, in a row since May 17, 1977. And in effect, 37 years ago, yesterday, our great leader, Menachem Begin, Zichrono Livracha, who received the mandate to lead our state of Israel after 25 years in his role as the opposition leader. It was yesterday. On that important day, the National Party, my home, Halikud, had received a mandate from the Israeli voter. Also, the Israeli democracy overcame its biggest test ever, and the government passed from Avoda, labor, to Likud in a proper, democratic and accepted fashion. Since then, I'm happy and proud that our party has been re-elected almost every election to lead the state of Israel responsibly, wisely, and with their understanding of the complicated reality of the Middle East. Dear friends, our government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, continues its just struggle to achieve peace and security for our people in its homeland. One of the most difficult struggles we face, and one in which I am proud to play a central role, is the struggle for truth. This struggle with the international community and often also within Israeli society, and on an almost weekly basis in the Knesset plenary. You know that once a week, Senator, there is a non-confidence vote once a week, a non-confidence vote at the Knesset. And I am the government speaker. So it's very difficult, believe me. We are fighting for the truth, for the simplest of facts. The land of Israel is the historic homeland of the Jewish people, and our aspiration for peace is part
of our DNA. There is no need to lecture us or preach us. The simplest truth is that for nearly a century, ever since the Jewish people returned to its land, there is no desire on the other side, on the Palestinian side, to recognize Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people or to sign a real peace agreement with us, unfortunately. The fact is that the previous prime ministers and governments of Israel made generous offers, including a return to the June 6, 1977 borders and the division of Jerusalem, even including the holy places, and even then, they did not agree. As you know, recently, the Palestinians choose to establish a government with Hamas, a terror organization that calls for jihad against Israel in order to destroy us and build in its place an Islamic religious state. This is the truth. There are no two truths or half-truth. There is only one truth, and it's on our side. This is, yeah, you can. This is not a territorial dispute, nor is an argument about Judea and Samaria. The dispute is about the very existence of Israel. We face this struggle every day. We face greater and better funded forces, but together, we will overcome them. My friends, we consider you our best ambassadors. The state of Israel, and the Likud leadership appreciates and values the alliance between the United States and Israel. This friendship is important and good, and it continues at full strength. This does not mean that we cannot occasionally disagree. I have to tell you, I heard lately and I read about the Israeli democracy and other issue. I have to tell you. Let me tell you here in the clearest possible words. Israel is one of the most magnificent democracies in the world. We are very proud of our achievements and of our strong democracy. By the way, the only democracy in the Middle East, you know. I want to thank you again for your support, for your friendship, for being loyal ambassadors for the state of Israel, for the people of Israel, and the land of Israel. I want to say, next year in Jerusalem, לשנה הבאה בירושלים, but I will say instead, לשנה הזאת בירושלים. I want to see all of you in the beautiful Jerusalem this year, and I hope to meet you at the Knesset as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. Good night. Shalom. Thank you.
No, it gets to make a trip back to Israel to be properly framed. I would now like to call upon Malcolm Hoenlein to present the Menachem Begin Award for Political Courage.
First, I want to thank my dear friends, the leaders of the American Friends of Likud, Gerald Platt, Ken and Nir Abramowitz, Julio Messer, along with Adam Fishman. This Likud Trinity plus one does so much for Israel and the Jewish people. Their commitment there are a few people who at least believe it. Their commitment to Jewish security, to the vitality and safety of Israel, are boundless. They are involved in so many causes, I doubt any one of them is gainfully employed, because it's not possible. I am most appreciative of their role in the Conference of Presidents, where their voices are heard with respect and impact. I thank you for all you do, for your generosity, your spirit, and may you continue ad mea ve'estrim until 120 and continue to do the amazing work that each of you does and contributes to Klal Yisrael. Tonight we have a special guest, someone who is a very unique person. He's a Jewish leader in an Arab country, a hero to me. I've come to love him as I've come to know him and have enormous respect for all that he has done, often in difficult circumstances, a member of the government, a minister, ambassador at large, a leader of the Jewish community who just completed a program under the guidance of the king where they restored 1,200 Jewish cemeteries in Morocco. I think that's an amazing achievement. And I had the privilege to see it, and believe me, you can't imagine what an amazing achievement. I wish in America we could do that to all of the abandoned Jewish cemeteries. I've been given an impossible task tonight, and that is to try to introduce one of our greatest friends, advocates, defenders in the American political scene, for that fact, in America, period, in a short time. Unlike most elected officials, this leader does not seek headlines or accolades, he accomplishes. He is the leading exemplar of what I call the Scoop Jackson tradition. And he wears that mantle of leadership with a sense of responsibility, with clear vision and foresight. When Moses turned the leadership of the Jewish people over to Joshua, he summed up the qualities of leadership in 2 words, chazak v'amatz, be strong and of good courage. Now, he didn't mean to tell Joshua to go to Jack LaLanne and work out. He said, be strong in your convictions and have the courage to carry them out. We know that there are a lot of leaders who have convictions, sometimes the wrong kind of convictions, but convictions, but no courage. We know there are a lot of leaders with courage, but no convictions. Our guest today is a man of courage and conviction, and he acts on both.
Greetings to all my friends in the American.
This is a man who talks truth to power and wields power with truth and integrity. He not only votes the right way consistently, but he has always stood up to lead the fight on vital issues. We need him so much at this critical juncture for our country, for Israel, for the world. For him, his leadership is a matter, and his stand on Israel is a matter of heart and mind. Will the West, led by the U.S., summon the courage, the wisdom, the convictions to lead, to support our friends, and hold our enemies to account? Too often it appears to be the reverse. We have to consider how Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, North Korea, Venezuela, and so many others, including Russia, perceive our words and deeds. Do they see unquestioned resolve and far-sighted strategic plans, or mixed signals and confused messages? Not so for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which he has led with such strength, and which sends unambiguous messages in bills, resolutions, letters, and statements. The same is true of their counterparts in the House Foreign Relations Committee led by Ed Royce and Elliot Engel. These are voices of supreme rationality, realism, and responsibility. They make it clear that they are ready to implement whatever steps are necessary. And Senator Menendez's record speaks to that. Time and time again, he has worked to uphold Israel's sovereign status, rejected any process for peace that is not based on direct negotiations, and insists that a 2-state solution include ironclad security guarantees for Israel and recognition of Israel as a Jewish state. He has led the opposition to unilateral Palestinian statehood, introducing Senate Resolution 2011, stating negotiations must be direct, and undermining the efforts of the PA to go to the UN to bypass negotiations with Israel. The rejection of a Palestinian unity government that includes Hamas. His speech on the floor in May of 2014, just recently, underlining his strong conviction that the U.S. can no longer support and provide assistance to the Palestinian Authority if Hamas exercises its influence. Ensuring I'm cutting out a lot just to tell you some of the highlights, but he has been an ardent advocate for strengthening U.S.-Israel security relations. He was a co-sponsor of the Iron Dome Support Act, authorizing the president to provide assistance to Israel for the procurement, maintenance, and the sustainment of the Iron Dome defense. He has been a co-sponsor of the United States-Israel Enhanced Security Cooperation Act, which authorizes the president to provide assistance to Israel to enhance its defensive and offensive capabilities. And most recently, he introduced the very important Nuclear Weapon-Free Iran Act of 2013, together with our great friend Senator Kirk, which seeks to impose additional sanctions on Iran in the event that a comprehensive agreement on their illicit nuclear program is not reached. And he says it like it is. When the negotiations began, he sparred with the administration and he said, a so-called Iranian charm offensive is simultaneously matched by an actual offensive to cross the nuclear weapons threshold. Tougher sanctions will serve as an incentive for Iran to verifiably dismantle its nuclear weapons program. As the negotiations we've seen over the last days, his words were prophetic and all the more important. And together with that stalwart friend, Senator Mark Kirk, they have formed a partnership to advance these critical pieces of legislation, and also with Senator Lindsey Graham. In early 2013, the resolution calling for stronger sanctions enforcement against Iran and to support Israel should it find it necessary to act. There are so many more pieces of legislation and resolutions that this gentleman has been responsible for. And before we make the presentation to him, I would like him to look at the screen for a minute for a special message. Yeah.
Greetings to all my friends and the American Friends of Likud, to Jerry, to Julio, to Ken, to all of you. I want to commend you for all the efforts that you're making on behalf of the State of Israel, including the Caravan of Democracy. This is a concerted effort to spread the truth, and the only answer we have to the lies cast against Israel is the truth. You're doing that day in, day out on American campuses and in the battleground for truth, as well as in many other places, and I thank you for that. Perhaps no one is more deserving of your esteem, our collective esteem, than tonight's honoree, Senator Bob Menendez. Senator Menendez is a true American patriot. He champions and values the Israel-American alliance. He stands up and calls it like it is. He's totally unflinching in the face of criticism. He speaks out for Israel's security and for America's security in bold and certain ways, and we applaud that. I want to say, Senator, that everybody in Israel appreciates your courageous stand, and I want to commend American Likud for choosing you so wisely. Thank you.
It's my honor to present the Menachem Begin Award for Political Courage to an American patriot, as you heard, a great leader, and honestly, a hero of our time. And I want to ask our good friend, Senator Robert Menendez, to please come forward.
Muy buenas noches. Gracias, Malcolm, por esa felicitación, esa presentación y por reconocerme con este honor. Es un placer estar aquí con los amigos americanos del Likud. And for those of you other than my friend Luis Pons, who's probably would be, the rest of you would be terrorized, I might continue for the next few minutes in Spanish. Let me say thank you very much. Malcolm, thank you for your very gracious introduction, and more importantly, for your leadership each and every day. When you are not in Malcolm's presence, I can tell you what he and the council are in the midst of doing in promoting the U.S.-Israel relationship. He's an extraordinary individual, and we are fortunate both as Americans and for those of you of Jewish descent to have him as a leader. So Malcolm, thank you very much for everything you do. Let me thank the American Friends of the Likud for bringing us together and for the recognition. Your national chairman, Ken Abramowitz, your president, Jerry Platt, your executive director, Adam Fishman, who does a great job, and the members of the board. Mr. Minister, congratulations on your recognition. Your introducer piqued my interest, so I went to my memo, and I saw that you're only 37 years old, so I am jealous. You have had an extraordinary period of time, and I think there's much more to come, so congratulations on the recognition as well. And let me also recognize the many dignitaries from around the world who have been introduced tonight and are here for Israel. It's an honor to be in such distinguished company. And it's a distinct honor to receive the Menachem Begin's Award for Political Courage. But let me just say, in my view, it doesn't take courage to be outspoken about the importance of the unshakable bond between the United States and Israel, a bond that has its roots in the histories of our two nations and endures because of our nation's shared values and commitments. For me, for 21 years as a member of the Congress, first in the House of Representatives and then in the Senate, representing a district in the days of my House of Representatives that had far more Palestinians and Arabs than it had members of the Jewish community. As a matter of fact, to give you a flavor of what that congressional district was like, the sheikh that was involved in the first World Trade Center bombing had his mosque 2 blocks away from my congressional district office. And that is a district that I represented 14 years before coming to the Senate. And I said then, in the midst of protests, and I continue to say 21 years later, that it is in the national interests and security of the United States to have a strong, unwavering relationship with the one democracy in a sea of autocracy, a major trading partner of the United States, a major security ally of the United States, and the one country most likely to be voting with us in common cause in international forums, and that is the state of Israel. And so for 21 years, I have held that consistent view even when it was not politically propitious. To me, when Prime Minister Begin's visit in 1978 came about, it was said, Israel's achievements are uniquely its own, a mixture of high idealism, ingenuity, and self-reliance. Americans have always found an echo of our own frontier past in Israel's energy and its strong individualism. As the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I know its combination of that idealism, ingenuity, self-reliance, and shared values that are the foundation of the U.S.-Israel relation. On that same visit, in the lead-up to the Camp David Accords, Menachem Begin touched on the essence of our unique relationship. He said, Israel is a very small country. The United States is a mighty world power. But there are bonds which tie us together in understanding and friendship which derive from our tradition, from our faith in divine providence, from our love of liberty, from our devotion to democracy. These are the values that make life worthwhile to live. Much has transpired since the Camp David Accords, and the world is a different place. But the sentiment about the U.S.-Israel relationship remains unchanged. As we contemplate our shared commitment to Israel's success and prosperity as the only democratic country in the Middle East, I often wonder what sort of Middle East Israel will find itself going forward. Will governments in the region seize the mantle of leadership and demonstrate a commitment to democratic transition? Or will these societies continually be destabilized, driven by mass protests and violence as regimes resist political and economic reform? In short, will the new Middle East be an incubator of 21st century democracies like Tunisia, or will it be relegated to the dustbin of Iran-like fundamentalist theocracies bent on turning back the clock 500 years? Will it be free of brutal dictators and look to leaders who can set a foundation for free and open societies? Or will violent extremists seize the narrative and drive the notion that change can only come through violence and bloodshed? The history of the Middle East at the beginning of the 21st century is yet to be written. The history of Israel, however, is written in the strength of its democratic values and its unwavering place as America's most important partner in the region. So what we do know of the new Middle East is that Israel will remain a democratic anchor, and there will be no daylight between the United States and Israel, and certainly no daylight as long as I am the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We will continue to ensure that we remain united by those values to deal with whatever blooms from the Arab Spring, whether threats it poses or opportunities it presents. Though the road to peace that Israel has always sought is fraught with obstacles at every turn, I think about the statements that Prime Minister Netanyahu said during a recent conference in Washington, where he previewed for us what a new Middle East could look like. It would be a Middle East in which a broader peace would have a positive spillover in the entire region. Prime Minister Netanyahu himself emphasized this at AIPAC when he said, quote, "Peace would open up the possibility of establishing formal ties between Israel and leading countries in the Arab world. A combination of Israeli innovation and Gulf entrepreneurship, to take one example." He spoke of improving the region's water and energy situation, improving agriculture, improving education with e-learning, and improving health with diagnosis on the internet. He suggested that Israel could help its Arab neighbors make scientific, agricultural, and technological advances that would help everyone prosper economically. The new Middle East could be a thriving place where the entrepreneurship of Dubai and Doha and the innovative skills and educational investments of Israel would help Arabs and Israelis build better, safer, more prosperous and secure lives for themselves and their neighbors. But notwithstanding the Prime Minister's recent statements, and notwithstanding our genuine hope that those words could one day become a reality, the bottom line remains as clear to me as it has always been. There can be no existential threat to Israel from their neighbors. There can be no fantasy of flooding Israel with refugees, no movement to amputate parts of the Negev and the Galilee. Notwithstanding any hopes we harbor, one thing is certain, and in my view, set in stone. President Abbas, or whoever leads the Palestinian Authority, must recognize the Jewish state as a Jewish state without equivocation. And a Palestinian government must also renounce terror. They must honor its past commitments, and they must find its own source of courage to lead the Palestinian people towards peace in a two-state context. In an ideal world, with an Israeli-Palestinian diplomatic breakthrough would come problem-solving, investment, entrepreneurship, and from that we would emerge the new Middle East that we all want to see. But let me close by making 4 points as it relates to where I stand. First, as chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I reject any movements which call for a boycott or divestment from Israel, and any comment that suggests Israel runs the risk of becoming an apartheid state. Those are wrong, they are flawed, and they are unconscionable to this chairman. Second, President Abbas and whoever comes out of this attempt to form a unity government must choose between a future that envisions a two-state solution, with Israel as a Jewish state having peace and security, and a Palestinian state with prosperity for the Palestinian people, or a marriage with a terrorist organization that will never achieve that dream. The marriage with Hamas under U.S. law has consequences, and that message must be abundantly clear. We will act on the consequences if that is take place. 3, and the most important, maybe pressing issue of our time. As we move forward to the possibility of a deal with Iran, a deal that I frankly am very nervous about. I have been outspoken and confronted some in my own party because I believe we need the right deal, not any deal for the sake of having a deal. Let me be clear. I believe that it is of the utmost importance to reassert that an Iran with a nuclear weapons capability would be an existential threat to the state of Israel. Iran would also be emboldened to take even more aggressive actions throughout the region. The regime already persists in supporting, financing, and exporting terror, sending fighters to Syria to prolong what has become a humanitarian disaster on enormous proportions, fomenting extremism in Iraq and Yemen, and propping up Hezbollah and Hamas. A nuclear Iran could unleash an arms race in the world's most dangerous tinderbox. We need to be absolutely clear that it is the unequivocal policy of the United States to do everything in its power to prevent Iran from attaining nuclear weapon capability, and absolutely clear that we reject policy options designed simply to contain a nuclear-armed Iran or mothball its nuclear infrastructure. Our clear intention must be to prevent Iran from ever reaching that capability. And it is because of that reason that I introduced the third round of sanctions, the Menendez-Kirk legislation, and I still believe that it is necessary to assure our goal of making sure that Iran never has the nuclear weapon capability that we risk. Finally, let me conclude, as I have many times before Jewish groups, and most importantly, before non-Jewish groups. Having Israel's back means fighting back on the efforts to delegitimize the Jewish state. The Holocaust was the most sinister possible reminder that the Jewish population in exile was in constant jeopardy. But let us be very clear that while the Shoah has a central role in Israel's identity, it is not the reason behind its founding, and it is not the main justification for the existence of the Jewish state. Several thousands of years of history lead to an undeniable conclusion. The reestablishment of the state of Israel in modern times is a political reality with roots going back to the time of Abraham and Sarah and historical texts and artifacts. The argument for Israel's legitimacy does not depend on what we say in speeches. It has been made by history. It has been made by the courage of the men and women who have turned the desert green, by Nobel Prizes earned, by groundbreaking innovations and enviable institutions, by lives saved, democracy defended, peace made, and battles won. These are the ones we should honor for their courage. John Kennedy wrote in his famous book, Profiles on Courage, in whatever arena of life one meets the challenge of courage, whatever may be the sacrifices he faces if he follows his conscience, the loss of his friends, his fortune, his contentment, even the esteem of his fellow man, each man must decide for himself the course he will follow. The stories of past courage can define that ingredient. They can teach, they can offer hope, they can provide inspiration, but they cannot provide courage itself. For this, each man, and I would say each woman, must look into their own soul. There can be no denying the courage of the Jewish people. And as I look into my own soul, I know there can be no denying the Jewish people their legitimate right to live in peace and security in a homeland for which they have had a connection of thousands and thousands of years. And for so long as I am the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, that is the view that we will lead that committee from. Thank you very much. Shalom.
Senator, you have my vote. I want, just in closing, to thank both Senator Menendez, Deputy Minister Ofer Okunis, for their leadership both here in America and in the State of Israel. And I want to ask you all, before you leave, just to commit to three things, and that is, if you're not yet a member of American Friends of Likud, please become a member of American Friends of Likud. If you're already a member, please increase your involvement, and the opportunity to do that is right here, right now, actually on the flip side of your program card. But three things I would ask. Number one, become a member. Number two, please continue to come, just as you've come tonight, to our events, to our missions today in Israel. And finally, please, don't come alone. Bring a friend, spread the word. Thank you all very much. We have a lovely AFL gift for you as you exit the ballroom, and we will see you again right back here again next year. Thank you. Good night.